Coming up on Watching Washington, Senate Bill 202 continues to gain press in Indiana.
And we preview the South Carolina primary.
Plus, what did President Biden do with the student loan debt? All of these stories and more on Watching Washington.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Watching Washington. It's Friday, February 23rd. I'm Katie Donninger.
And I'm Audrey Doyle.
Biden cancels a $1.2 billion in student loan debt for 150,000 borrowers. According to the latest news from the New York Times, President Biden announced a cancellation of an additional $1.2 billion in student loan debt for about 153,000 borrowers on Wednesday, his latest effort at student loan debt relief after the Supreme Court blocked a more sprawling plan last year. Since the Supreme Court blocked Biden's ambitious plan to cancel $400 billion in student debt for about 43 million borrowers, the White House has tapped into various smaller programs to forgive debt for specific groups. The announcement on Wednesday morning comes at an opportune time for Biden as he works to energize voters during a fundraising trip in California.
The South Carolina Republican presidential primary is on Saturday, and Nikki Haley is showing no intention of dropping out of the race, though she may be facing an uphill battle. In the last day before the vote, Haley and former President Donald Trump are making their final pushes in the Palmetto State. The former South Carolina governor is hoping for a home state advantage, but Trump has a commanding lead in state polls. Nationwide, he has 63 delegates to Haley's 17. Some of his supporters say Haley should drop out, but she vows to keep going.
A controversial higher education bill continues to make its way through the Indiana General Assembly. On Wednesday, Senate Bill 202 passed out of the House Education Committee on a 6-4 vote along party lines. According to reporting by the Indiana Capitol Chronicle, the bill, authored by Senator Spencer Deary, would require changes to public universities' Board of Trustees and implement review periods every 5 years for all tenured professors. The bill will now go to the full House for a vote. Fast Track News, the student-produced weekly program covering Purdue news, weather, and sports, had a story this week on the bill and the university's Senate vote on a resolution that opposes the legislation. They also spoke to State Senator Deary, the bill's author. You can check out this week's episode on YouTube for the coverage.
Last Friday, the FDA approved a drug known as Xolair to treat severe allergies. The medicine is designed to be taken repeatedly by injection every few weeks to help reduce the risk of reactions over time. Allergies that could be more easily tolerated include milk, eggs, walnuts, and peanuts. This medication has previously been approved for those with persistent asthma and chronic hives. Xolair will now help to reduce severe allergic reactions brought on by accidental exposure. However, those taking the medication should still avoid foods they are allergic to. The Associated Press reports that the medication ranges from $2,900 a month for children and $5,000 for adults, and insurance can help lower these rates.
Last Friday, a judge handed down a nearly $350 million penalty for former President Donald Trump in the New York civil fraud case. Trump is also banned from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation in the state for 3 years. Trump's adult sons, Eric and Donald Trump Jr., are barred for 2 years as well. The former president's attorney said he plans to appeal the decision. The New York Attorney General, Leetta James, was seeking $370 million in damages. James said Trump, his adult sons, and his company defrauded banks and insurance companies by inflating the value of Trump's assets. Trump blasted the ruling on social media, calling it a complete and total sham. He also continued to repeat his accusation that the justice system is politically biased against him.
Last fall, the Biden administration announced the distribution of a $1 billion food aid, which still has yet to be released. Senators from all parties have started to urge the administration to start the distribution due to the escalating hunger crisis since the pandemic. This $1 billion will be used to deliver farm commodities to countries facing food insecurities. The aid is nearly finalized by the USDA and USAID. However, they're still waiting on approval from the White House. These delays are due to the choice of non-traditional agriculture products for the distribution, as well as concerns from the USDA about legal authority when accessing its internal funds for the aid. USAID Agriculture Secretary Tom Murtaugh states they will, quote, figure out exactly where that resource goes and how it gets distributed. He hopes to get this done as soon as possible.
Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny died last week at a Russian Arctic penal colony. Navalny was known for being a strong arm against Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Kind of modern version of the old dissident, but his tools were different. He wasn't writing manifestos on onion skin paper and passing them out. He was using social media. He was using mass protest. He was using all the modern tools he could. And he really came to fame in 2012 as a leader of anti-Putin protests right outside the Kremlin walls.
Family had not yet seen the body, nor was there an autopsy report released until Thursday. The report showed that Navalny died from natural causes, yet there is speculation that that might not be the case. Some people believe that his death was actually an assassination. The Biden administration announced a fresh slate of sanctions against Russia on more than 500 targets across multiple continents Friday. The new sanctions are also a response to Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Saturday is the 2-year anniversary.
Up next, more news coming out of Gaza regarding the ceasefire.
Plus, how will puppy mills be affected with a new bill? Stay with us. More Watching Washington next.
The Center for C-SPAN, which is this organization, the CCSC, what we do is we facilitate like a bunch of organizations, different programs for Brian Lamb, which is the founder of C-SPAN. Anyone can be part of CCSC, whether it be through our various internships, our competitions, just to be involved, even like our student community meetings that we have every week. Anyone can go. You don't have to be communications or poli-sci. You just meet so many people. The connections you make is kind of crazy, the range that CCSC has. So yeah, it's just provided me so many opportunities to like kind of achieve the goals I have personally and forward to like whatever career paths I choose.
Are you looking for a new hobby?
Or you want to have a fun evening with your friends?
Then come climb to new heights at the Co-Rec climbing wall.
Imagine a world where Olympics and Paralympics are unified as one, and where all athletes at all levels have equal opportunities to play and perform at their full potential.
Athletics has been such an influential and transformative aspect of my life. So to me, RISE is about ensuring that every person that has the desire to participate in sport has the opportunity to do so.
This organization is about recognition. We believe in recognizing excellence where it is found, especially in Paralympic sports.
RISE is about driving change in our community and beyond. We hope that through our events and initiatives, we can galvanize people for our cause and inspire them to create an ever-growing network to help achieve our mission.
It's about connecting people of various backgrounds and who truly care about creating meaningful change together.
We develop projects and hold events to bring people together at the interface of inclusivity, sports, and engineering.
Our goal is to promote the equality of all sports and to improve sports performance and accessibility.
Join us so that you can have a major contribution in creating meaningful change.
On Tuesday, the United States vetoed a draft United Nations Security Council resolution on the Israel-Hamas war, blocking a demand for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in favor of a call for a temporary ceasefire linked to the release of hostages by Hamas. This is the third U.S. veto of a draft resolution since the start of the current fighting on October 7th. On Saturday, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said that the U.S. would veto this resolution based on the concern that it could jeopardize talks between the U.S., Egypt, Israel, and Qatar that seek a pause in the war and the release of hostages held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
The Algerian drafted resolution separately demanded an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. Palestinian UN envoy Riyad Mansour said this veto means that Israel can continue to get away with murder. Gaza health authorities recently claimed that nearly 29,000 Palestinians have died in the conflict. Israel UN Ambassador Gilad Erdan said that a ceasefire achieves only one thing: the survival of Hamas. The U.S. has now proposed a rival draft resolution that will be open to negotiations.
The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that frozen embryos are children and protected under the state's wrongful death of a minor law. The decision comes after 3 couples sued a medical provider when the embryos were destroyed in an accident and overrules a lower court ruling. Critics say this decision could have major implications for fertility treatments in the state, which are already starting to unfold on the ground. In light of the decision, the University of Alabama at Birmingham Health System announced Wednesday that they are pausing all IVF treatments while they further evaluate the potential legal ramifications of the ruling.
Senate Bill 1412, aimed at regulating dog breeders and pet stores while nullifying local bans on dog sales, passed the Indiana Senate by a margin of 31-18. Supporters like Senator Blake Dorrit argue that it establishes tough standards and addresses business issues. In contrast, critics like Senator Kedora argue that the bill undermines local control and could protect puppy mills. This bill now awaits further action in the House chamber, where its fate will be determined.
Our in-studio guest this week is Tom Murtaugh.
The full interview just ahead on Watching Washington.
At Purdue University, we're not just students, we're future leaders. Join Air Force ROTC to embark on a journey of honor, excellence, and service. Learn, lead, and soar to new heights. It's not just a commitment, it's a calling. Purdue Air Force ROTC, where dreams take flight. Are you ready to rise? I got a switch in my head. I go from living to dead. You got me seeing all red. Now I'm becoming.
So I am the president of the ski club. I'm pretty decent at skiing, I would say, but I still am cautious and reserved when I ski. In Copper, one of the other officers was like, we're hitting this today. The last day, we're gonna do it, and you're gonna come up with me. He really convinced me, and we got to the top of the lift, and as we were going up the lift was literally like this. Then we get to the top, and I was angry. We're looking over this ridge and you can't see where the hill goes. You're looking over the edge and you don't see anything. Once I got over that little ridge and I was able to kind of see where I was going, once I got to the bottom, it was like a great accomplishment. If you want to have the time of your life, definitely check out Purdue Ski and Snowboard Club.
We have a special guest with us in the studio this week.
Tom Murtaugh is a commissioner for Tippecanoe County. Watching Washington's Gabe Obermiller is standing by with our weekly interview.
Thank you, guys. That's right. I've got Tippecanoe County Commissioner Tom Murtaugh with me in studio today. Commissioner, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, specifically on the issue of taking water from Tippecanoe County and giving it to Boone County, when were local officials, specifically Tippecanoe County officials, notified of that plan to pump water?
Well, we had heard through the rumor mill was actually how we determined that there was something in process. The mayor of Lafayette actually had heard through a third party that there was a plan to potentially purchase water for the city of Lafayette. So he reached out to the state and to talk about that, and then it was determined that they were working on this plan to do this pipeline.
Now, what were kind of the initial reactions when you heard those plans from you and your fellow Tippecanoe County officials?
Well, there was legitimate concern, obviously. Right. I mean, we had then a series of meetings with IEDC to talk about that issue and to talk about the process, to talk about the study, to talk about the preliminary engineering that they were doing on an actual pipeline at the time. We raised concerns. Obviously, citizens were very concerned. We held a public forum in which we used to educate the public. And at that particular time, there wasn't a lot of information being released by the state on the testing process or the status of the project as a whole.
Okay, so has your perspective, I suppose, changed at all as time has gone on? Because I know we've had studies going on, taking place, and we've had certain officials in contact with the state, with state officials. Through any of that, has your perspective changed at all?
I would say it's changed, and I think it's changed dramatically. I think both the mayors, my fellow commissioners, and myself feel more comfortable with the process now that the governor has moved this from in the hands of IEDC to the IFA, the Indiana Finance Authority. So we have, there was a meeting in which the governor and the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House came to Lafayette and met with myself and the two mayors and representatives from Purdue University to talk about this issue. And what came out of that meeting were really good things. That one, it was going to be, the process would be taken over by IFA, who has done these types of studies in various regions across the county or across the state previously. But they also committed to not proceeding with any more testing at the two local sites here. They weren't going to go beyond that. And that they committed to, not proceeding with the pipeline until the IFA study is complete. And then the last commitment that was made stated that, if a pipeline came to fruition, that it would have to go through the legislative process, which is the important part of that is that then that makes it a public process.
Right.
So there is, public engagement in that process. And so that was very, very important to us. Since that time, since that meeting with the governor, we've had several meetings with IFA, with Jim McGough, who's leading the project, and the transparency and the open communication has been night and day. And we're very, very pleased that instead of looking at one or two parcels in Tippecanoe County, they're looking holistically at a 14 county area for possible answers to those the resource needs for Boone County.
Okay. Now we in an earlier episode of Watching Washington had talked to Lebanon Mayor Gentry, and then last week we talked to West Lafayette Mayor Aaron Easter, and kind of got both of their perspectives on a level of communication between the two areas. Mayor Gentry had said that he would be willing to enter talks, enter conversations with local officials here, whether at the city level or the county level. Do you think that there's even a conversation to be had there?
Well, we're certainly open, to those conversations. But at this point, I think we need to rely on the science that's going to come out of these studies.
Yeah.
that was our whole argument, or our whole concern about the project was the fact that not the idea of LEAP itself, because LEAP in itself is an economic development tool and site that is needed for Indiana. We need those large mega sites to attract business and good paying jobs to Indiana. The issue with us is we wanted to make sure that, one, if you're drawing that quantity of water from this aquifer, that this community was going to have adequate resources for generations to come, and there wasn't a lot of confidence in that original study that's being done, that was being done at the time. So the fact that they're looking at a much more broader study area gives us confidence.
Okay. So, in your opinion then, at the conclusion of this study, is this a done deal? Is this project going to move forward?
Well, I think that LEAP, I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like, whether it's, 3,000 acres, whether it's 9,000 acres, and, that's more of a question for Mayor Gentry. But I think LEAP will move forward. But what I don't know is what a water supply.
The pipeline, right?
Yes.
That's what I was alluding to.
Do I think it will be a pipeline from a single parcel in Tippecanoe County? No.
Okay.
I think what likely will happen is there'll be water drawn from several different sources based on capacity.
Okay. Do you think that this could set some sort of precedent in the future and potentially cause concern for other communities around the state?
Without a doubt. I mean, quite frankly, Indiana is behind the 8 ball on this issue. States around us have dealt with this. There's the pact in regard to water drawdowns from, the Great Lakes, and Indiana really hasn't addressed this issue on water rights. So it is very, very important that we address that in the future, because right now, if whoever owns the property can drill a well and use that water as they see fit.
Now, if we flipped it and it was Tippecanoe County that needed water for a development project, would you be comfortable with taking another town, another county's water in hopes of aiding that development?
So let me answer that this way, and you can shoot that question back at me if I don't answer it.
Okay.
Where I think things got off the rails here is, perhaps we wouldn't consider locating a business park here. For example, in Tippecanoe County, we've identified areas for industrial growth. Those are the Purdue Research Park, the Aviation Park, and then along 52 on the east side of town and along 38. Those areas have access to water. They have access to the utilities and the resources they need to support that industry. What I don't understand is why this type of mega site park was located in an area without the resources. Yeah. But that's not my question to answer. But we would, we definitely would make sure that we had the resources in any place we were going to put industry.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that is all I have for you today, Mr. Murtaugh. I really appreciate you sitting down with us, and I'll now send it back over to the anchor desk. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's all the time we have today. Thank you to our guest, Tom Murtaugh, for being with us today.
And thank you for watching. See you next time on Watching Washington.